Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, we're going to go ahead and talk about this budget, the loans, something that you were concerned about. You raised concerns about this on the floor of the House as a matter of urgent national interest. So why do you consider it as such? What's going on?
Straight to the issue at hand. Any Nigerian should be worried about what is happening, the Chinese loan. The Chinese are taking over critical infrastructure from other parts of Africa. But looking at the countries that they're taking over, I think Nigeria is too blessed to fall into that category. And these loans are shrouded in secrecy, a lot of opaqueness in the loan. And our people, our constituents are asking us what is happening, what is Nigeria doing about these loans? Why is it that a Bureau for Public Procurement is being sidelined? Why is the Federal Executive Council taking over the role of those agencies? So they're asking us, and we as legislators have to ask the executive and the necessary office that are involved in this so that Nigerians can be clear what we're doing. And if we see that there's any upper court in it, we should take a decision so that we don't fall like other countries that are at the verge of losing their critical infrastructures.
Now, there's quite a list of loans that Nigeria has taken from China's Exim Bank over the years, from like year 2000, just as you're aware. Perhaps a good place to start would be, who has asked questions about the previous loans that we have taken? Who is accountable to Nigeria about how they have been utilized before we can justify taking subsequent ones that came after?
Yes, that's why we are asking this. First, we've taken about 17 loans so far, starting from 2000, and presently we are about 47 billion indebted to the China Exim Bank. And the most worrisome part of it is the fact that some of these, the major vehicle with which this loan is coming, which is the Chinese, what do you call them, the CCEC, CCECC, that is a major vehicle that is bringing this loan to Nigeria. It's actually one company that has been blacklisted by the World Bank. The Paris Club is crying that the Chinese loans are not Paris Club compliant. IMF is crying that they are not Paris Club compliant. And if you look at the loans that we have taken so far, one, we cannot justify what we're using them for. These people, they give us their bill of quantity, they give us price. They hold the money. They bring their Chinese people to work in Nigeria. So we are losing on all front. I cannot sit here and tell you exactly which of these infrastructures have been religiously constructed or completed. And loans are supposed to be project dependent, and these infrastructures, are they really paying for the loan? The one that we've taken, what is the prudence that we can find in it? How far have we been able to use it? Can we really sit down and say that we are getting value for money? Today we have about 64,500 Chinese personnel working in Nigeria under this loan. They discuss this loan. The Bureau for Public Procurement does not know anything about this loan. These people are not, they don't tender for this project, which is an aberration, an infraction in the laws of the land. So that is why Nigerians are crying out. And as legislators, we're looking at it. Let us see what they have done with the what we've collected and why we should collect more.
Committees of the House of Representatives since the year 2000, which you are talking about, until the present. And just as you said, some of these loans, well, all of them, are supposed to be project-specific. Now, to each of these projects, there is the power sector, there is the rail sector, there is the transport sector, and all of that. What has the members, the committees responsible for supervising or performing oversight functions on the relevant agencies or sectors that the loans are supposed to be servicing? What have those committees done over the years? And is there any plan to probe how far those loans have worked so far before we can talk about, other renegotiation?
Well, for one, the National Assembly is kept in the dark in all these loans. The National Assembly is not part of it. I just told you that even the Bureau for Public Procurement is not aware of this loan. These loans are collected. The Chinese, through the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, which is CCECC, they bring a bill. The executive, the federal executive, approved the bill. They don't even, nobody looks into the bill. Nobody says if these projects are overpriced. But from what we have seen from other countries, the Chinese loans are overpriced. And these people are very corrupt. This is an administration that came into office with one serious agenda about corruption, anti-corruption. And I believe that corruption is actually fueled by contracts. And if these people, Chinese, can just come to Nigeria, give us a bill, and we go, and some of these agreements are actually signed, they come in Chinese language. I am very sure that our people don't even know it. In railway alone, we've taken 17 billion in the course of this present administration. And like you said, what have the House committees been doing? The best time to start an issue is now. That something has not been done over the years because the National Assembly is being kept in the dark. They don't know what is happening. They are not brought into it. We just appropriate. This year, this budget of 2020, we're talking about over 2 trillion naira appropriated for debt servicing. And we appropriate, and we don't know how this money is being spent. So that is why we have come for once. Let us look into what's been happening from 2002. So far, we are about 47 billion in about 22 critical infrastructure, power, transport, ICT, agriculture, and so many other critical infrastructure. We don't want to, what we're doing today is to agree that whatever has been done in the past that is not correct need to be corrected, because we are here today, tomorrow we'll leave. Our children unborn, they are going to ask us, if care is not taken and our airport is taken over, our railway is taken over, our energy, the power sector is taken over by Chinese company, they are going to ask us, you were there as a member of the House of Representatives, you were a legislator, what did you do? Like you're asking, that nothing has been done over the time since 2002. But here we have started. The necessary committees have been given the mandate, and I'm sure in a very short while we'll come out to know what we have benefited from these loans that have been collected. If there's nothing we have done, if it's established that there's corruption, that there's any act of corruption, because the agreements are opaque, nobody knows what is happening. The National Assembly does not know about it. And I'm telling you that the Bureau for Public Procurement does not know anything about it.
Oh, very quick one, Honorable. Just one moment. Honorable, yeah. On the issue, you've repeated it like 2 or 3 times that the National Assembly doesn't know what is going on. The National Assembly is kept in the dark. Under what conditions did the National Assembly approve the loans in the first place? Was it that the members of the House of Assembly, the National Assembly, asked questions and they didn't get the answers, or they didn't ask the questions at all? They were supposed to perform oversight functions on how those loans perform and on how those projects are doing. I'm curious, what do you mean when you say they're kept in the dark?
Well, most times when projects are coming, I mean, when approval, when the executive is seeking approval for loans, they might not come. You will not list the projects one after the infrastructure one after the other. It will come under the nomenclature of critical infrastructures, and you will not see it that this is for energy, this is for agriculture, this is for water. But, and again, it was not done, approved, based on that we're getting this from China to construct this. We're getting loan. So when you're looking at the National Assembly, I mean the House of Representatives, and saying that they seem to be sleeping on their right. No, because some of these requests does not come with project specific. It is when they go and during the implementation, that is why they attach them to this project. So I don't think the National Assembly had been sleeping on their right. We've started, and we're going to do what we need to do.
Yeah, but if they come in that guise, isn't it then upon the House to ensure that it is what he says it is? Because now people say you're crying over spilled milk because they had the responsibility in the first place, but they didn't do that.
Well, Section 88, flowing to 89 of the Constitution, give it to the National Assembly to investigate whatever they can appropriate for. They should investigate, seek for for evidence where there is corruption, where there is waste and inefficiency. So I don't think there's anything wrong. There's no spilled milk. Something has been done. We're not saying, for now, we're not blaming anybody. We want to know, what have you done? What are the conditions attached to this loan? What are the projects that they are supposed to be sponsoring? And what is the assurance that this project can actually pay for this? And now, let me ask one question. Today, we are working on our railways. What is happening to the steel, the tracks that are being removed? What I know about steel is steel only change forms. We are selling our steel as scrap. These same Chinese people buy our steel as scrap, take it away, melt them, and bring them as tracks. Why should our own be scraps? What is happening to our steel industries? What is happening to Ajaokuta now? The president is doing something about that. What is happening to the one in Delta State, the Delta State company? So why should we always, Nigeria should always be the one taking our agricultural product, we bring it and we send it, people go there, they process it and bring it as super product for us to buy. Now, even our steel is being sold as scraps. They come back into the country as tracks, and we are paying so much for it. I think there's need to look at so many areas. There's so much to do. The National Assembly is ready to do it. The House of Representatives will take a decision, and that is what we are going to do. We're not taking side with anybody. We are not indicting anybody yet, but we want to see how it is done. How will the Nigerians sign an agreement that is written in Chinese language? And in looking at it, what is the cost of the projects that they are using the money for? Why should I borrow money from you, Shambalin? I'm borrowing from you. You are holding the money. You are spending the money for me. How do where is checks and balance in all of this? So those are the areas that we want to know.
These issues that you raised about Nigeria signing loans in Chinese language, did you actually do that?
Shabale, those are some of the things that we want to know. Nigerians will know. It's going to be an open investigation, and everybody will get to know it.
Because, I mean, you're talking about saying some of them since 2000, as you've said, and this is what, 2020? And then some of these loans, huge questions, because if there were no issues, the National Assembly won't be raising concerns, as a matter of fact. But it's something that, let me see if let me not get ahead of ourselves on this one. So as you say, it will be open. Nigerians will then see it. But it also raises questions about how the National Assembly has been carrying out their duties all this while. Because if Nigeria is signing loans that generations yet unborn will pay, and the National Assembly was there when these things happen without asking those questions, of course, definitely, at the end of the day, people will point fingers at the Assembly.
Well, like I said in my opening speech, you'll understand that the best time to start a project is now. If for some reasons it was not looked into and because they were not part of it, there could be an issue and they say, well, we are not signing, we don't know what is happening, and maybe let the executive do it. But today we have opened that chapter. And whatever we do, we're not just doing them. At times, it's as a result of the outcry from the public, and people are asking questions. We have unemployment issue in Nigeria, and these Chinese people are giving us loan. And you remember the Minister of Transport did say that since the money, the loan is coming through the ECC, and they are funding it, they have 100% right to execution. And that, I think, is very, very wrong. I can't borrow money from you and you have 100% right of execution. And that is why they have over 65,000 Chinese people working in Nigeria. And these are projects tied to this loan that we've collected. If we collect loan, why can't Nigerians work? What about technological transfer?
Even though,
what
time
about
and
our
again,
local content?
Right.
This is not giving us anything. We are losing on all fronts.
It's good you bring this up, and we should say that time and again, the government has come to try to explain these things, but it would be good to have these cards on the table so we can really know what is happening. But the big question for a lot of Nigerians is how impactful would this intervention by the House of Representatives be? This is on a bilateral scale now. So it's not just the laws in Nigeria that apply. There's been a contractual agreement. There's been pen to paper. So how impactful would this intervention be?
Well, the Chinese BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, it's a bilateral one, country to country. But in other countries, we've seen that people have been able to identify corruption. People have been able to identify underhand issues. And if we are able to identify that in Nigeria, I think there's need that can give us that leeway to sit with them and say, since this is done not in good faith, what do we do about it? And today, every nation of the world is talking about the pandemic that we were fighting. And I'm very sure by the time we are done with the COVID-19 pandemic, we'll come to the economic pandemic. And there's nothing wrong in us in Nigeria putting our cards on the table, looking at seeing what they have done in the past. And if we see anywhere where something is done and it's not done well, I think there's nothing wrong in sitting and renegotiating or reevaluating whatever that the executive has signed with the Chinese.
What are the options on the table? I hear things like postponement, suspension, or outright cancellation. Are those the options on the table?
Yes, definitely. Because if you they say he who comes for equity must come with clean hands. If we had gone into an agreement with the Chinese firms, and we discovered that there's something wrong, there is corruption involved in it. There is why today the World Bank have actually blacklisted some of these companies that are working in Nigeria. And the reasons are known. Some are for corruption, some for greed gift, for neocolonization. And these are issues that we are going to look into too. These are areas that we are going to look. Is it true? We should be able to have independent, we have professionals in Nigeria. Let's not look at what we are doing with China. If actually the money that they are giving to us, because we will pay definitely one day, because they are interest. And China is one country in the world that is very, very hard when it comes to loan agreements, and they don't forgive loans. The highest that they are saying they can do is to suspend your interest payment. So I think there's nothing wrong if we look into it. Let's see areas where we can see that there's an infraction, especially when there's underhand, when there's corruption, and they are done not in good faith. That whatever agreement that you go into, not in good faith, definitely cannot stand.
So are you saying that outright cancellation?
That you didn't do it well. There's corruption. Then we can actually take it off from there.
So are you saying outright cancellation is not an option? Because you said that we'll pay eventually. So outright cancellation is not an option.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. What we are trying to identify is that this thing is not done in good faith. This thing was done with corruption at the back of their mind. This thing was done by inflating whatever the contract price should be. Then once we are able to identify that, then we have a right to say, well, this is not done in good faith and we will not be part of this.
So what is this talk about force majeure? Because now it seems you're saying that the major issue here are the terms and maybe the conditions that these loans were given out. But there's also another talk about force majeure, which was brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. How does that play out in all of this?
Yes, today the entire world is looking at the root of this virus. If it's coming from a Chinese lab, or it's coming from a Chinese fish market. If it's coming from a Chinese lab and it's discovered to be deliberate, if it's a chemical weapon to destroy the world, to kill people, and to actually fight the heavyweight control of the world economy, then people can actually say that you have cost us a lot, and there's need for one of the things that we can ask from them is for them to cancel whatever we are owing them, because it has actually affected our people and affected our economy. It's an option.
You know, some of these loans, I mean, publications which indicate that the loan that Nigeria took in 2002, in March, that's the $114.89 million, I beg your pardon, for the construction of two 335 megawatts gas power plants on Motosho and Papalanto, which was completed in 2007. Now, these loans usually are specific, tied to projects. So if you're saying that there are huge questions, are you also insisting that the BPE or several other government agencies are not aware of some of these things?
Well, I think the role of the BPP, the Bureau for Public Procurement, is to advertise projects so that qualified companies can come pre-qualified before these projects are given to them. But where a project is not advertised, it means that the BPP have no function. It means that they were not carried along. I'm not sure the BPP can sit down and abdicate their responsibility, knowing fully well that Nigerians are watching and people are going to come out for them. But BPP, because it's an arm of the executive, they're not talking. But we are going to get to that to see that they don't, they probably forgot their roles and responsibility and jumped the act passed by the National Assembly and assented to by the President, which is a law, a functional law in the country. But I'm telling you that so long as they are not advertised, the BPP does not know anything about it.
Because, I mean, we do remember that.
They are able to prove otherwise that we are aware.
Okay. Because several ministers have appeared. Several ministers have appeared before different House committees in relation to some of these loans. I mean, in 2019, in October, the Minister of Transport did appear before the House, and there was where he spoke about how they are sending 150 Nigerians to China to learn how to maintain the trade. So all of those things happened. So one then wonders, so how come they didn't raise questions concerning all of this if you now feel that something is wrong? And then in addition to that, at the end of the day, if you come up with your recommendations, if the executive is not on the same page with you, how do you hope to achieve all of this that you're going to be asking?
Well, Chamberlain, it is not, the Constitution did not make the Parliament an appendage of the executive. We are not expected to be on the same page. What we do at times is complementary and cooperation. But it doesn't, the Constitution did not make it. That is why there's room for separation of powers. It is our role to do our work. We are not expecting the executive to be on the same page with us. But the Constitution, like I said, Section 88 of the Constitution, gives us the right to acquire documents and information from them, whatever we want, whoever. So we're not expecting the executive to be on the same page with us on this.
You have listed some of the conditions in this, in some of the terms and conditions in these loans, and it was something that Nigeria and China sat down and appended their signatures to. Do you blame China for Nigeria agreeing to some of these terms when we agreed over the past 20 years?
Well, China, like I said, it's a highly, it's a country that is trying to spread their influence around the developing countries. If you look at the countries that have signed into the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative of China that was launched in 2013 to build infrastructure across the world and increase their influence, 138 developing countries have actually signed into it. So I would not blame China, but I think I blame Nigeria if we discover that what we're looking at is actually the issue. I blame the country because Nigeria cannot compare ourselves to the likes of Kenya, Sri Lanka, Namibia. Those are countries, because Nigeria is hugely blessed. We have what it takes to be the real head of the African economy. So I think we should blame ourselves because we've wasted a lot of time and a lot of resources and not doing the right thing. But like I said, we're here today. Tomorrow we won't be here. The posterity, the best judge in existence will judge all of us when we leave. And our children are going to ask us, during your time, what did you do? That is why we have to start from where we are now. let's see how we can correct whatever errors that have been made in the past.
Well, we'll see how all of that plays out. You've said it's going to be public. Nigerians will know what happens at the end of the day. So that they'll certainly look forward to. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning, Honorable Ben Ibakwa.
Thank you, Sir Mili.